Hello, everyone, and welcome to Janet's Craft Corner. This is Janet, and I'm going to show you today how I paint our newest interchangeable insert, the Wee Bit Irish insert. And this is obviously a St. Patrick's Day insert, but it's a real quick and easy one that I think you're gonna like. So already got our stuff sorted. This little section up here is white, and I didn't actually pre-paint my white this time, so you get to watch me paint white. Doesn't get to do that very often. This section, along with the backboard, is light green. This is red, and then all of this is a dark green. And then we're gonna be a little bit creative, and we're gonna add some dots, and we're gonna add a little bit of shading to some of it. I think at least we're gonna try. Okay, so let's start. We're gonna use basically 4 colors, as you saw, and the light green I'm using is called Lime Sorbet. Normally I wouldn't do this big a piece in sponge, but I do have some little, can you see the cross hatchings in there, that I do want to preserve. So I'm going to use a sponge, and I'm going to use a larger sponge than I usually do because I just don't want it to take all day. So we're going to use the sponge. We're going to do it with the sponge and large, but like I said, I'm using a larger sponge. With the sponges, remember, you don't want to load your sponge, and I don't know if you can see this on the screen. I'm going to try to show you. You don't want to load your sponge up so that it looks like that, really wet and lots of paint on there. You want to unload that paint in your paint tray till it just has a very little bit of paint on it. And then you want to use light pressure when you're putting it on, and that'll keep it from going down into those cutout areas. It'll also keep it from making big clumps along the sides. So it's good for lettering. If you've got small lettering, we're going to use it with the white on the small lettering for the license plate. But in this case, we're using it this way to keep the lines preserved, the crosshatch that is there preserved. And so you just load a little bit, not very much at all in it, and load it pretty good so that you really got it's a light coat that goes on. And that means a lot of times you need 2 coats, but it's okay. It goes on really quick. And like I said, if you use a larger sponge, I usually cut my sponges in quarters, but for something like this, I'm going to use it large and the whole sponge. I'll then cut that top off and probably cut the remainder in quarters to use it. But I usually use the top of a full sponge to do something as large as this one. Okie doke, that looks pretty good there. So I think I've got a nice coat on that. And then I'm not going to mess up a brush for this. I'm just going to keep using the sponge. I mean, takes a little more effort to use a sponge on big pieces like this, but not a lot. So I don't feel like digging out a brush and getting it all yucky for that little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good for that. Okay, and then now I'm going to use a small sponge to do this white up here. There's not very much white, just enough to be annoying. So again, we're going to dip our sponge in the paint, and then we're going to pound our palette off to the edge or on our paper, whichever we're using to offload, so that we don't have a whole lot, because we don't want it to go down along all the edges. Okay, so that's all of our white, but you know what I want to do? I want to do some dotting. I don't know if any of you, I don't remember if I dotted last week or not, but I'm going to do some dotting this week. So I'm going to do some dotting. I'm going to dot in the middle of each of these squares. And then I think I may dot that, the piece that goes here, the larger of the center clover. So to dot, you just dip it in the paint and then you touch it onto your piece. Remember when dotting that you do not want to touch it to the bottom of your palette or it will take the paint off of the tip. You want to actually just dip it in the paint and then touch it to your piece wherever you want it. I am going out here on these funky edges because I like to keep it consistent, be in the middle of that. I'm not paying any attention to whether or not it's going to be fully or partially behind letters. It just makes it easier when you're painting it to not pay attention, but you can if you want. If you're worried about it being fully or partially behind letters and you don't want that, then you can adjust. It doesn't change the way the letter attaches to the board, so just picked out the pieces for the March Crafted by You. See, I'm always a little ahead of you guys. I think you're gonna like it. I think it's really, really cute. Something that we can either stand or hang, which is nice. And I'm not gonna tell you much about it because that ruins the surprise. But I did get it all picked out and got all the parts and pieces and all the embellishments and stuff ordered, and so have something fun to do, I promise. Now, if you're not familiar with Crafted by You, it's our monthly crafting club that you join, and basically each month you get a kit, which comes as you get an actual full project kit. It comes with paint, with all the embellishments. All you need to provide is brushes and glue. I provide sponges, so you can just sponge paint it. If you don't have brushes, you can get by without them. Glue you do need, but you can use just about any glue on these wood pieces. I should use, I always forget, Glitter Art Glue by Artistic something. You'd think I could remember. But, so it's a really fun time, and then we meet once a month on Zoom and paint our item. And, even though I include the paint, you can always, of course, as with all of our kits, one of the best things about them is you can make them match your decor. That's what I love about these kits. They give you the opportunity to just really, really personalize them and make them your own. Because you don't have to. I mean, yeah, Wee Bit Irish sounds like it would be green, but hey, you could do, you could do gold instead of the white on the Lucky Charm. That might be pretty. You could do whatever you want basically with the letters. I can do what you want with the clovers. If you want purple clovers, okay. I'm a little more pragmatic than that. I would not make purple clovers, but it doesn't have to be just this kind of monochromatic two-tone that I'm doing. But I'm doing that on purpose because I want it to be simple for you. I want you to see just how easy some of these can be. It's really, really easy. And I'm going to go back over this white. White is one, if you watch very many videos of me painting, you'll find that I almost always paint my white ahead of time. And I do that because white does better if you give it plenty of time to dry between coats. And because white does not cover in one coat. Some of the colors do, even with sponge painting, some of the colors will cover in one coat. But white never, ever does. So, I try usually to paint all my white on the beginning of the week and then use the pieces. But sometimes I decide I'm going to do something that I wasn't doing earlier in the week that I didn't know about or didn't think about. which is what happened here. And so actually, I did know this is what I was doing today. I just forgot there was some white pieces. So I didn't paint them on Monday when I painted all my white. So today we'll paint the white. Our little heart for the middle of our clover up there is, I'm painting mine red because that's what color my heart is. Kind of a Valentine's-y heart, I guess. But again, you know, paint any color you want. It's yours. Okay, all of this down here, I'm painting a darker green. It's kind of a Christmas green or a grass green is what I would call it. I think that's the name of the folk art one that matches this, is grass green. I happen to be using the Delta Ceram Coat one, so it is, it's Christmas green is what color it is. And I'm going to use a brush on everything but the letters, because we need for these outside clovers to be the darker green. It's the way I decided I'm painting this. That's what I did. Was the outside clovers are the darker green, the inside clover was the lighter green, and then the license plate is going to be the darker green. And I'm just making sure I go over a little further than I think I need to go, because I always have a tendency to go not far enough, and then I have to come back and paint a little bit more. You don't need, you know, obviously that big one's going to cover up a large portion of this, but so then there's a lot of area here that I really don't need to be painting, but I didn't mark where my green one goes. Engraving on this, but it's all placement engraving, so I don't have to worry about whether or not the green goes down in it. Even when you paint right over the top of it, you put a pretty good coat on it, you'll be able to see the light painting, the light placement engraving. If you decide you don't want to place things where it says and you want to change it up that much, you really have to put a really good coat on these pieces for that to not show through, just so you know. Okay, and then I'm going to get me a sponge and cut it up and do my piece here. This is how I normally do my sponges. I'll cut them into quarters. And that way I can use them basically 8 times, because when I use a sponge, and I've done that with the white, but it's white so you really can't tell, I guess. It's hard on this one side. Well, here's a red one. It's hard on one side where I've used it before, but I still have this other side to flip it over to. Because these are bigger, that I don't feel like that's a big enough side. So I'm gonna use this one. Same as we did before, we don't want to globber. We can glob it on, but if we want to remove as much paint as possible so that we've just got light paint on there. And because this is a darker color, the chances are pretty good we won't have to do more than one coat, even though we're just putting I mean, this is like the lightest of coats on this. Decided to do this one live this week because I'm gonna do some fun things. I'm gonna show you some little fun ways to add a little bit on to your pieces, a little bit of character, I guess. And because of the dots, I may or may not have seen it. Bad thing about dots, about dotting in general, is that I can use a heater on it. Bad thing about dotting in general is that they're kind of large bumps, so they take large clumps of paint, so they take a lot longer to dry. But I'm going to use a heat gun, and we'll dry them to a stage where I can at least kind of handle the piece, so that I can do some show you how to do some shading. Okay, so to shade, lots of different ways you can shade. The way I'm going to shade today, wait a minute, I'm going to dry this or I will have a mess and no meeting. So give me just a second. I apologize for the noise this is going to cause. Okay, that should be enough to handle it. But I will tell you, these are not completely dry yet, and so be careful when you're doing this, unless you've let this completely dry. Okay, so shading. We're going to take our sponge and we're really going to offload, and we're just going to kind of rub it along this edge to get us some little shading there. Now, I feel like I get too hard a line when I do this. So what you can do to make your line softer is take another piece and load it so that half of it's the dark green and then the other half is the lighter green. You want to do this after you're done painting with all your colors, because you're going to make a mess on your palette. So now if I come through here and do it, I can come up a little further without worrying about that hard edge, because my edge is a blended edge here in the middle of my sponge. This is what my sponge looks like. There's a blended edge in the middle of that sponge. If you've ever watched our Technique Tuesday on gradients, it's kind of that same concept. You want the blended edge there, and I'm getting a little bit less of the light green than I want, so just adjust my blend. But you want that blended edge, and then you're going to lay it down so that the main color, the non-shade color, is in to the center, towards the center of your piece. See, I'm still not great at it, even knowing all those little tricks that I know. But we'll put a little shade in here. And as you're going, see, like there I got it a little heavy, so I just go back over and go over with the light green edge. Keep it from being too heavy along any of those edges. And see, there you go. We've got some shading around the edge of that. The other thing you can use to shade, and this is my favorite, these are daubers. And I think they're used a lot in scrapbooking, but it's just it's a plastic piece that has a little bit of sponge on the end, and you load it just like you do the regular sponges. You keep it very much unloaded. But because of the shape of the sponge, it goes along that edge a little, for me at least, I think it goes along this edge a little better. And you can still do the mix of the light green and the dark green on it, because like there where I was coming in here, I want that dark green to come in, but I'm having trouble getting it in there the way I want it. So you can still do the mix and have an edge that's got some light on it. This is giving me that same really effect that I got there, but to me I have more control with this, that's probably just psychological, to be completely and totally honest, but it's what I feel. So, you know, work with whatever works for you and play around with different methods. I try to show you multiple methods, even ones I don't particularly like, because everybody's slightly different, and those different methods may work differently for you. If you like the dauber, you can buy them at most craft stores. At Hobby Lobby, they are in the scrapbooking section, which is what made me think that they must use them a lot for scrapbooking. You can also get them online at like Amazon. So they're just paint daubers. I know they're a little cheaper online, actually. A lot of things are cheaper in person, but, or at least we find they are, because this is a kind of an expensive area because we're just off the Lake of the Ozarks. But I will tell you, you usually cannot buy singles of them. They're usually like 18 to 24 of them in a package. And you can wash them out. I usually don't. I'm lazy. So I usually don't. So we did some shading on those, and then I'm going to go back and do the opposite shading. So I'm going to shade with the light color on the dark ones and see what that looks like. And you'll notice I'm going back over it a couple different times, going different directions with my sponge because I get too much light or too much dark. So just keep going back over it until you get it about right. And that's basically all there is to shading, is just getting it, kind of getting an edge along there that you can use your sponge to get that edge. Both cases I kind of shaded my stem heavy. So if you look at it, you can kind of see that. I did shade, these are the bottoms where they're really not the right place to have shading, but I shaded them just because I wanted, in case it shows. They're going to sit down in the truck. But on some of them, they always sit down in a ledge of some sort. So they're going to sit down in a ledge. So I kind of shaded them a little differently, but I did put a little bit on them. Okay, I think that's good enough for our shape. Like I said, one of these days I'm going to get Katie or Maggie one to just join me on the live, and we'll do our shading and stuff. So I'm going to assemble this for you to show you how to lay it out on the truck, but I'm not going to do it because, as I've told you many times, gluing takes a lot of time, just spreading your glue out, etc., etc., etc. And I know that your time is valuable and you know how to apply glue. So I don't go through that process with you. There you go, all done, all laid out there for you to see. So that's it's a new one we've got, and it's, like I said, it's just a really simple paint, quick and easy, get it done. And you've got a insert for St. Patrick's Day, which is one that I think we had one, but I didn't like the one we had. Sometimes you just, you got something and you just don't like it. So I bought a couple more, and this is the first one. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you on the site and in comments.